Why is it looking backwards? I don't understand that. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yeah, I see you are all connecting. You know, I'm noticing something strange on the board right now, or at least with my camera view, and I'm wondering if any of you have seen this before. So I'm going to remove the 360. Basically, it looks like a mirror image. It looks like the writing is backwards. And I'm wondering if you guys have all experienced that before when I've shown you my writing on the board. Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah, I could see it fine. It's a little blurry though.
It's blurry. Okay. Does it look like it's backwards?
No, it doesn't. It's not backwards.
Not backwards. Okay, because on my screen, it looks like it's backwards. Okay, so that's good to know that it's not that way on yours. Okay. All right. Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate the check.
No problem.
Okay, everyone. Welcome to class today. You know, as always, I love seeing your faces. So if you can turn your camera on, please do so. Yeah, so we'll get started with the conversational part in just a little bit. Right now, if I'm hoping you can see it okay. If you see the lesson plan that's written on the board, the first thing that I would like you to do is to take out your George Washington Gomez novel and to start reading, pick up where you left off, okay? This is the text that we are going to be working with for the rest of the semester. So it's very important that we make steady progress with it. The last 2 weeks, let's see, we're in week 7 now. So I think week 5 was when we first started reading George Washington Gomez. You'll notice it's about an average of 20 pages a week. So please make sure that you are keeping up with that. The last 2 weeks, like I said, we read 20 pages per, but this week we're making a jump. We are skipping about 40 pages in the middle of the story, or I should say early on in the story. So you were supposed to read up until page 58 last week. But as you'll notice, when you log in to our course website, assuming you're logging in using your PC, you'll see our homepage and what is required of you to read for this week. And you'll notice that it doesn't say page 59 on up, it says page 107. All right, so please be aware you do not need to read the section from page 59 through page 106. Okay, it's not that it's not useful or it's not good for the story. It's just we would not be able to finish this novel at a pace of 20 pages a week if we read every single page in the story. And that section is a little less significant to understanding the whole story. Okay, so nonetheless, please go ahead and read George Washington Gomez for now. I will continue to get things a little bit more prepped as we wait for more of your classmates to come in, although it looks like we are getting more and more students. I'm noticing that we're at 13. Remember that if you are part of Group Gualinto, right, you were supposed to come in this week unless you had some kind of a medical issue or you think you were exposed to someone with COVID. If you are sick or you have been exposed to someone and you are part of Group Gualinto, hello, please email me in advance so that way I have a sense for who's coming to class and who is not. Hello, you're here for the point. Is it Heidi?
Lisbeth.
What was your name?
Lisbeth?
Lupe?
Lisbeth.
Lisbeth. Sorry, Lisbeth. My hearing and the masks, they don't help. Please come on over. Okay, so let's get to reading George Washington Gomez for right now. As you are reading George Washington Gomez, what I would like you to do is to look for what I call golden lines. Okay, these are sentences from the story that stand out to you. Okay, they are significant to you for some reason or another. Okay, maybe you think they're important to understanding a character or the plot, or maybe you just thought the language was really impressive and it stood out to you for that reason. So what I'd like you to do is read George Washington Gomez and start looking for your golden lines. And I'd like you to look for 2 of them. Okay, I will put that into the chat right now. Does anyone have any questions about what I'm asking for you to do right now? No? Okay, we're all clear? Okay, so please go ahead and do that. I'll be checking in with you in just a few minutes to see what were some of the sentences that stood out to you. Well, it's really wherever you left off reading. Hello to the individual who logged in as Zoom user. Could you please identify yourself? I don't see your name. You could unmute yourself and let me know who you are. Otherwise, I'll have to remove you from the session.
It's Yesenia. For some reason,
Yesenia.
it doesn't show my my picture.
Okay, that's okay, but I think you should be able to type your name in to the user ID.
I was trying to. I'm not quite sure how to do it.
Okay, but thank you for identifying yourself. Okay, Yesenia, I'll make a note of that. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so Elizabeth, Alexis, we're just reading George Washington Gomez for a little bit. It's a reminder for you all, you should be reading the story, right? But also it's a chance for us to talk about what you're seeing, okay? So there's not a required spot that you're starting from for this little activity, but you should know, right? Each week you're supposed to be reading a certain area of pages, and that's listed on the syllabus, and I also put it on the homepage. Okay, everyone, in about 3 minutes, we'll check back in with your golden lines. For the golden line, you do not need to write down the whole quote in your notebook. While I do recommend that you do something like that because we will be writing about George Washington Gomez in a few weeks for your midterm. And it's useful to have quotes that stand out to you. You know, for this, it's more important that we're able to all find the quote. So at the very least, write down the page number and be able to share the page number where we can all find the quote together. Okay, so you have about a little less than 3 minutes to identify your 2 golden lines. Good morning, Ileana. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm dragging a little bit today. I'm trying to wake up a little bit more, and it is just a little slow going. Something I don't know if you were on when I was talking with Rachel about this. The whiteboard, the wording on it, does it look backwards to you or is it correct?
I'm sorry. Can you?
The whiteboard, can you hear me? The whiteboard behind me?
Yeah.
Can you read the words on there? You can? All right. Yeah. When I look at the screen that I thought you all were looking at, it's backwards to me. It's like looking at a mirror. So I'm relieved. Yeah, I spent a few minutes trying to fix it and I'm like, I don't know what to do. But I don't need to do that because you can see it all just fine. So
Yes. Mhm.
okay, thank you. Okay, everyone, less than a minute. Please gather your notes together, especially the page numbers so we can all find it. Okay, so as far as sharing the golden lines go, just unmute yourself and let me know what you found that stood out to you. If you also would like to type it into the chat, you can type the full quote into the chat or like a quick summary of it and the page number, so that way we can all find it, okay? So what were some golden lines that stood out to you? Not all at once. I can't keep up. What'd you guys find? That goes to you guys in class too. Do you guys need more time to find a quote?
I have one, but I haven't had a chance to get the second one.
Okay.
If that's okay for me to share.
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead. Let's hear. I mean, you know, one of the reasons why I ask you for two is because oftentimes someone shares their quote and then someone else has picked the same quote and they've got nothing else, you know, if I call on them as backup, right? So really the second quote's more for backup just in case someone else has taken yours. But Yesenia, you're going first, so go
Yeah.
ahead.
It's on page 115. And
Okay.
it's when it says, when God gives, he gives with both handfuls.
Okay, so that's page 115. What part of the page? Top, middle, or bottom?
In the middle.
Middle section? Okay.
It's right after the quote where it says, dolor de costado. I
Hmm.
got it very bad.
As my
As my father says, when God gives, he gives with both hands full.
Okay. Page 115. Okay, Yesenia, why does that one stand out to you?
This is, I guess, it was kind of more like, for me, it's like a dicho
Okay.
in Spanish. So that's what kind of just stand out.
Can you explain a little bit more? Like, what is it? Just it's an expression or a saying that you connect with personally.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Great. Other expressions, other sentences that stand out to us, whether because we personally connect with them or they think that they, or we think that they help us understand the story. This bad. Alexis, what did you guys find as you were reading? Pardon me? You didn't find anything that stood out to you? Elizabeth, how about yourself?
Chapter on page 30.
Uh-huh.
Her firstborn, but we remember being here compared when he was 30 years old. So that was before my son started to working side by side with
Feliciano's father.
Feliciano's father, and it was right in the corner of the chapter and carrying water and frequent help.
Okay. Where did it begin with? And she knew kind words then, or it was a little after?
Before her son from her firstborn. They remember being here compared when he was 30 years old.
Okay. This is when we're learning more about Feliciano's mother, right? What was it that struck you about this?
It kind of sounds like she's kind of real quick.
She what, I'm
Like she real quick, like, like where it says that was before like half-hearted her, breaking that like that was pretty almost common.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like an easy life, right?
It's just that she had to start working at a young age again.
What was that again?
She had to start like working like at a young age. I guess.
Yeah, it seems that most of the characters in the story, right, are experiencing these hardships, okay? And that it's generational too, right? Because we're getting this when we are looking at Feliciano, right? The work that he had to do or the work he was afraid that he might have to do, right? He talks about he's got to go look for a job in Jonesville, right? And he's thinking he might have to pull stumps. Could you imagine that that's your job, right? You're literally pulling stumps up from the ground. I don't know if anyone has ever tried to uproot a tree, okay? But it's very, very difficult, even if you have the right equipment, okay? And that, as Feliciano describes, is backbreaking work, okay? But this is not unique to him, okay? This is something that his mother and his father had to do. And perhaps this is something that motivates him for Gualinto, okay? Something that we need to pay attention to is how do the experiences of Feliciano and the family influence their desires for Gualinto and the girls, okay? So good, that's good because it brings us back. And the mother is not a character that we return to. This is probably it. This is what we're gonna see about her, okay? So this little detail is important because she has two children that we follow much more closely. That's Feliciano and his sister, Maria. Maria is Gualinto's mother, okay? So it gives us a sense of generational experiences, okay? And how this has continued. You might have heard the expression, right, breaking the chain, right? Breaking the cycle, okay? How will things be different? Okay, what is required in order for things to change? Okay, but yeah, not an easy life at all. Any other quotes that or golden lines that you came across?
On page 49.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Page 49, okay.
Yeah, 49. The boy must grow up without hating his heart.
Excellent. Okay. So, Maria, what sticks out to you about this? Why is this one of your golden lines?
Because his dad wanted him to be a leader and help his people. And that's a characteristic of a good leader to like not have hatred in his heart and be kind.
That's great. Thank you for connecting it to that conversation we had last week, right? About what does it mean to be a good leader? And this helps us see, this is what Gumersindo thinks is required to be a good leader, right? Because if we look at the whole line, right, this is, I believe this is actually Feliciano thinking back to that time when Gumersindo was dying, right? And this is like Gumersindo's last wish, okay? That his son not grow up with hate in his heart. I don't think this is what Feliciano believes or what drives him. So that's important for us to kind of compare these two. Feliciano's way of doing things, Gumersindo's way of doing things. Let's see, the boy must grow up without hate in his heart, Gumersindo had always said. But how could Feliciano teach him not to hate gringos when Feliciano could not stop hating them? Right there, the next line clarifies that, okay? So this invites a comparison of Gumersindo's way versus Feliciano's way. Right, and we know that what connects them, right, is Gualinto, okay? Gumersindo is the biological father, but Feliciano is now taking over, okay? Because Gumersindo is dead, okay? And this dying wish, right, is now an obligation that Feliciano carries with him, right? So this is also interesting to kind of pay attention to this theme of the past and how the past does not stay in the past. It does not die and end permanently, okay? It is carried on in different ways. It manifests in different ways, okay? And in one way, this past is influencing Feliciano every day of his life, okay, to not tell his nephew the truth about his father's death, okay? So keep paying attention to the experiences of the past and how they are connected to the present, how they are influencing the present. This is an example of how it happens personally with the characters, but we have lots of clear examples of how this happens in terms of history, okay? Think about Feliciano's anger. Where does it come from, okay? It comes from generations of struggle between the Anglo-Texans, okay, and the Tejanos, right? Those people who identify as Mexican that are living in Texas, okay, which was formerly a part of Mexico. And through various conflicts, okay, that territory changed hands, right? And Feliciano reminds us with his own personal family's history, they lost land. It was literally taken from them, okay? So keep paying attention to how history, how the past visits itself upon the present, okay? These things are not separate, right? The story reminds us over and over again of this kind of influence of the past, this interconnection. All right, I want to share with you a line, it's pretty close by, that struck me. And I think it's very similar to this other one here that was shared, okay? So the line is on page 38. All right, okay, so for page 38, the quote is, Feliciano marveled. He had never lived in a place like this before.
Oh, Professor Gardner, you might need to move the camera.
Yes, I will do
Hold on.
that. That's right, I'm not on autofocus here. Okay. There we go. How about now?
Yep, that's good. Thank you.
Great. All right, so this was a golden line for me. it again brings us to the character of Feliciano, okay? What is he marveling about? Well, he just has moved from San Pedrito, okay, to Jonesville, all right, in search of a better life, okay? This is after the death of Gumersindo, okay? And he's just been harassed by some deputies who remind us of the Rangers that killed his brother-in-law, that harassed his brother-in-law on page 1, okay? They moved to Jonesville because they thought it would be safer, okay? A safer place for a better life. And in some ways, it is a better life, okay? Gumersindo actually, he gets a job right away working for the local politician, okay? Judge Norris, all right? Judge Norris thinks that Feliciano can help him promote his political cause, or really his political party, okay? So he learns more about him because of that exchange with the deputies. But as a result of getting this job, he also gets a house. And this house is a simple structure, but it's a quality one, okay? It's made of wood, it's sturdy, it's got 2 large rooms, okay? When we compare that to where he lived before, it was a hut. So this is much more developed, okay? And he doesn't have this job that will destroy his body, like what he feared he might have to get when he moved there, okay? He has something else entirely. So the word marveled really stands out to me, because this isn't just like, oh, he was impressed. It's almost as seeing it's almost as if he's seeing something wondrous, okay? Something even supernatural. And that really helps us, I think, understand how bad things were before, okay? I wonder if Esperanza would have been happy with this house. I'm reading your papers now. I think she probably would have been a little dissatisfied, because she struggles at the beginning of the story. But nonetheless, Feliciano, okay, who is a crank. This guy, okay, is hypercritical of everything, okay? Doesn't believe in anything. He is shocked by this. So this is an important moment, because I think it tells us Feliciano's a little more complex, okay, than we might have thought, okay? He's not just someone who says no to things or is a constant antagonist. This is a sign of vulnerability and appreciation that we don't get very often with this character, okay? And again, it's in relationship to a home, okay, a house, right? So what does this new house mean? What is it a symbol of for him and for the family? Okay, for all of you at home, obviously for those of you in the class, this is a good exercise for you to do every time you are reading, okay? Write down a couple of lines that stand out to you. What do they reveal to you about the character? What do they reveal to you about the story, okay? I would suggest that you open up a Word document and just write all of these lines, these quotes, and the page numbers that they appear on in that Word doc, okay? Because like I said, you will have to write about George Washington Gomez, okay? So it'll be helpful for you to have outstanding quotes already with you, okay? At the very least, though, it will also help you come more prepared for class. I do appreciate those who did participate, but there's a lot of you who are showing up and who are not participating and being active, okay? That makes things a lot harder, all right, for you to learn and to develop, and for us to kind of grow together as a class. So come prepared, do your reading, okay? Write down the stuff that sticks out to you. Write down observations that you have. Okay, so after reading George Washington Gomez and looking at the golden lines, the other part of the lesson that I wanted to review with you was grammar, okay? And we're going to use this golden line that I have up here to kind of do some of that review. Okay, so what do we need to make a complete sentence? Hello. Remember, we reviewed what a complete sentence was when we talked about fragments in week 3, when we talked about run-ons in lecture last week, Okay, there are three things that make up a complete sentence. What's one of those three things? Feel free to unmute yourself or type it into the chat. If you've got to look at your notes, go look at your notes. Okay, Karina, you helped me out. Thank you. With a subject and verb. That's two of the three. Excellent. So let's take it one at a time. The subject, okay? Anybody remember what a subject is? The subject is usually a noun or a pronoun. It's a person, place, or a thing, okay? Sometimes that is an action that is presented as a process, okay? But for right now, we'll keep it simple. We'll keep it at person, place, or thing, noun or pronoun, all right?
Well,
And-
Professor,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. You might need to move the camera again to the left.
Is it still, it's in the same spot as it was for the quote, let's see.
Oh, it was partially cut off. Sorry about that.
No, that's good. That's helpful to see. Is that a little better?
Yes.
Great. So subject, verb. Verb refers to action, okay? Or being. Most of the time it's action. Okay, when we say being, all right, it sounds complex. There's a verb called the verb to be, right? It's like when you say I am Daniel or whatever your name is, am is the verb in that case, okay? It's a form of being. Become is another verb that would fall into that category. But most of the time, we're going to have very clear actions that we look at, okay? Running, jumping, swimming, climbing, reading, stuff like that, okay? All right, great. So we have two foundational pieces of a complete sentence, but what is that last quality of a sentence that we need to be on the lookout for?
The ability to stand alone.
Awesome, thank you, Rachel. And there we have it, the ability to stand alone. Independence, okay? It is complete, right? When it can stand alone and it has a subject and a verb, right? Now, how do we know it can stand alone? Well, signified by certain other words that are present, right? If we have a word like because, or while, or although, or since, that's a word that's going to make whatever comes after dependent, okay? It can't stand alone if it's got one of those things there. So like, for instance, Feliciano marveled. He had never lived in a place like this before. Look, we're going to break this down right now. So I want you to take a couple of minutes, all right? Let's do this one thing at a time. So don't even take a couple of minutes. Take a minute. I want you to put a box around the subject, okay? We have two sentences. Put a box around what you think the subject is here for the first sentence, and put a box around what you think is the subject for the second sentence. Okay, go ahead and take a minute to identify the subjects for these two sentences. I'm going to type them into the chat just in case you cannot see them very well at home. All right. He marveled. He had never lived in a place like this before. What is the subject of each of these sentences? So your process right now should be, you're looking for nouns and pronouns, okay? Not every noun or pronoun is going to be the subject, but at least you know it's got to be one of those things there, okay? So first find those things and then try to figure out from there Well, which of these is the main character for the sentence? Okay. What do we think for the first one? Feliciano marveled. What's the subject there?
Feliciano.
Yeah, thank you. Feliciano is, right? So now we have a good example for us. This is super short, it's only 2 words, right? We got more though in the second sentence, okay? What could be the subject for the second sentence? Yeah, he, exactly, okay? All right, now let's move on to our verb. What is the action that's taking place in both of these sentences? We'll do one at a time. Sorry, Elizabeth? Yeah, marveled is the first one. Okay, and what about our second one? Yes, lived. Excellent, good. Okay, so when we have a subject and verb, this is really powerful for us to develop this skill because this means we can spot clauses, okay? Sometimes sentences have more than one clause in them. That's great. When you're doing that, you're creating complicated sentences, developed sentences, okay? Sometimes though, we only have one pair, okay? And we want to make sure we have the right pair. If I put the word because in front of this first sentence here, because Feliciano marveled, can I do that and keep it a complete sentence? Alexis, you're kind of shaking your head. No? Why not? Yeah, it can't stand alone if you start with because, okay? That would make it into a dependent clause, which is fine, but it can't be a sentence. It now has to be attached, okay? Maybe if we rewrote this and we said something like, Feliciano had never lived in a place like this before. So, well, let's do it this way. Feliciano marveled because he had never lived in a place like this before, okay? We wanted to use because, it would be better to put it in here. And now we can connect these two, okay? Now, if I put because here in the center, which of these can't stand alone anymore? The first sentence or the second sentence? If I rewrote this as Feliciano marveled because he had never lived in a place like this before, which one can stand alone, the first or the second? Yes, the first one is the one that can stand alone. So if I wrote Feliciano marveled because he had never lived in a place like this before. Okay, that is a potential revision here. So I don't want you guys to get the idea that it's wrong to use words like because or while or since. We just need to be careful of how powerful they are, because if we use it wrong, we'll make a fragment, okay? They're very useful for fixing run-on sentences, okay? Which, as I'm reading through papers right now, we're still struggling with that, okay? So an example of a run-on would be Feliciano marveled, space, he had never lived in a place like this before, okay? That would be a run-on sentence, but a way to fix it, we could put a conjunction like the word because in there, okay? And that could connect them both together, all right? Do you guys have any questions about our little grammar review about run-on or fragment? Okay, the most important thing for you all to remember, subject, verb, the ability to stand alone, okay? If you can remember those 3 pieces, you'll know what a complete sentence is, okay? And that will help you avoid fragments and it will help you to fix run-ons, okay? All right, great. For those of you at home, any questions about the little grammar review, about subject, verb, and the ability to stand alone? I'm going to type that definition in here. Please get used to it. I'm going to ask that of you just about every class. Any questions at home? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so now, speaking of editing, right, we're going to go back to thinking about the first essay, essay 1. Okay, we're not done with it just yet. Okay. We're going to look at a prompt for the revision reflection. Okay, how many of you have already seen the prompt for the revision reflection? Quick show of hands if you have. Not yet. Okay. We've got some writing we've got to get ready for. So what we're going to do is begin with a little reflection right now. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Let's make sure. Okay, great. All right, so this is our homepage, okay? For those of you who are using your PC to log in, and for those of you who are in the class, I'm gonna make sure to pull the screen down. Actually, I'll get that started right now so you can see it. What you can see, as typical, right, is a guiding question at the bottom, right? So the reflection question for today, what were obstacles to completing essay 1? Okay, I'll call these things barriers. All right, so what I'd like you to do right now is to brainstorm. What were barriers for you to completing essay 1? Okay, go ahead and take a few minutes to reflect on that now. I'm going to type that into the chat and set the timer, and then we'll record our responses on the board. Okay, great. So for those of you in class, it's this first question here. What were obstacles to completing essay 1? Okay. This is a very open-ended question, right? You can think about obstacles that were specific to the paper, right? But you can also include obstacles that had nothing to do with the paper itself, okay? They were something personal, but they influenced, they prevented you in some way or slowed you down from completing the paper. All right, timer set for 3 minutes. I'm going to get the board ready for us. What were obstacles to completing essay 1? I'll be taking attendance right now, so feel free to unmute yourself. Let me know that you're here once your name is called. Okay. Maria,
Here.
thank you. Yahaira. Yulisa,
Here, Mr. Good morning.
good morning. Heidi. Caitlin. Caitlin. All right, Brianna. Brianna. Okay. Let's see, Karina.
Here.
Good morning. Evelyn.
Here.
Good morning. Anthony.
Here.
Hello. Let's see, Lisbeth here. Okay. Rachel.
Here.
Thank you. Crystal. Crystal.
Here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Crystal. All right, Sarah. Sarah, are you here?
Here.
Great, thank you. Alexis, I know you're here. Sorry, getting in the mode of not thinking. Angelina.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Joshua. Joshua. Thank you, Joshua. Amanda. Amanda. No. Fabian.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Fabian. Yesenia.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Yesenia. Okay. Great. Okay, everyone. So what were some things that you ran into that made it hard or difficult to complete SA1? What were some barriers to completing that project?
Writing the introduction.
Writing the introduction was tough, Maria? Okay, great. I mean, I'm not happy that writing the intro was hard, but thank you for sharing that. Maria, what made it hard?
I never know how to start.
You don't know how to, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Were you trying to write the intro first?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I don't think you should write the introduction first. I've mentioned that in lecture. Okay, this is a good reminder. I think you should write body paragraphs first, because then that way you get a sense for what you're trying to introduce. Intros are really hard to write, okay? So I think that you're right on course, okay? That's typical, all right? They're hard for me to write. You should have, some basic thoughts, right, that are guiding you, but I really recommend starting by jumping into the body paragraphs, write those out, and then go back and rework those thoughts you had for your intro, okay? Probably a good idea for you to have a thesis, okay, as a starting point. Ideally, you've got a problem, right, that you're trying to solve with that thesis, but it does not have to be complete. So I totally get that. All right, great. Introductions were a barrier to completing this. What were other things that you ran into?
Having like a structure, like, I don't know how to explain it.
That's okay, like outlining it or just getting
Yeah, like
the-
an outline. I felt like my outline could have been better, or like I could have like started more like planned out.
Sure. Do you, like in retrospect, looking back, do you wish that you would have given more time to the planning portion of it?
I felt like I had time. I mean, I felt like you gave us time. It's just that I didn't take the time to do it.
Sure. Right. That's kind of what I meant more. Yeah, because look, we're all trying to figure out what our writing process is, right? Some of us just want to jump right in and write, and that can be useful. But I think even when you do that, you've got to have a time to reflect on what you wrote and to restructure it possibly, okay? Because otherwise that's just like a zero draft. That's what we call those first drafts that we just kind of bang out, okay? But others like myself, I like to have a plan in place first, okay? Because I really get uncomfortable when I don't know what to write or say. I hate writer's block, okay? Get physically uncomfortable with it. And I get pissed at myself. I'm like, this is a waste of time. I'm getting like nothing done here, right? And I'm really stressed out over it. So yeah, Karina, I'm with you. I, for myself, have learned over time, I need to have a plan. I gotta have an outline that's very detailed. And then I feel like it's not that I don't get stuck, it's just I get stuck less, or it takes a little less time to get unstuck, okay? So I wanna disabuse you of any kind of a fantasy, not you specifically, Karina, but look, writing is always gonna have challenging parts to it. We just kind of wanna mitigate or soften the hard parts, okay? All right, great. Other things that got in our way, and these can be things that are outside of the writing itself.
Mine was more like the support sandwiches. Like
Huh?
I had the quote, but analyzing the quote, like I couldn't find words to be able to like express myself. I had to change it, I don't know, probably like 2 or 3 times just to for me to be able to, okay, now I understand it. Let me write it down.
Yes, got
Just
it.
words. I couldn't find the words to express myself.
All right, so analysis of evidence. Great, Rachel, thank you for sharing that. But I also want to say, you're doing things the right way. Like we should revisit the words that we've used to interpret something. I think that's great that you're looking at it 2 and 3 times. I do that myself. It's so automatic now. I just kind of accept it as normal. So allow me to at least normalize that a little bit. That's part of the process. Ileana, how about yourself? Like when you're analyzing literature, do you revise your analysis?
Do I read what? Sorry.
Do you revise your analysis? Like, are
Yeah.
you revising your interpretations?
For sure. Yes. I even an essay, I'll be like, what I want to change my my like everything.
Like you just want to scrap the whole thing sometimes?
I feel like sometimes and then you're like, this doesn't make sense. I feel like maybe I can argue this another way. And then you just have to kind of the whole thing. But with the pieces of evidence that you have, it gets really stressful and really frustrating.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, definitely. It does happen all the time. And that's the other thing too. I like what you said. You've got to work with the evidence you have. Sometimes, yes, we could always, if we had more time, go and find more, right? But you've got to work with what you have in that moment. Don't claim more than what you have, okay? So really it's like an art of kind of revising those claims to fit what you can support, okay? That's why that relationship between claim and support is so important, okay? Don't overstate your claim, just stick to, well, what can you prove? Focus on that, okay? These are great examples. What are some other things that have been barriers to us getting the work done? Connecting the thesis with the claim, making sure that those two things are connected. Yeah. Yeah, and I see that as kind of related to what Karina had said, right? That's a structural issue, connecting the thesis to the claim. And you're talking about like topic sentence claims, right? Yeah. Yeah, you know, and this is a skill that we all are working on in here, writing our topic sentences and increasing the connection that they have to the main claim that we are trying to prove here, okay? So you guys, I want to normalize the writing struggles, okay? Now, something that we also need to consider, as we're going to see when we look at the reflection prompt, okay? You all have to write a reflection. And yes, you can definitely include these things here, right? I struggled with my intro, or I had difficulty structuring and analyzing the paper. That's great, okay? Include those things in your reflection. But as part of this reflection too, there are things that are not related to the paper, not related to the learning concepts, that are barriers as well, okay? I always tell this story at this time of the semester. I had a student, I was reading their reflection, okay? They were talking about their work schedule. They were talking about working shifts at In-N-Out, finishing at like midnight, and not starting their paper until by the time they'd get home and get cleaned up, like 1:30 in the morning, okay? And then they could probably only work on it for about an hour, and that hour was really poor quality because they kept dozing off, okay? It was hard to focus or have any kind of energy, right? So for that person, their work schedule was a barrier, right? So now here's the next thing that I want you to do. I want you to look at everything that you brainstormed for barriers, and I want you to circle what are the ones that I can control, okay? What can I change, okay? So in this student's case, what they reflected on was, well, they couldn't get rid of the job because for their family and for their purposes, they had to have like 30 hours of work a week. But what the student realized was that work schedule that was fine in the summer wasn't going to work in the fall. And so they had to request to make changes to their work schedule. And luckily in their situation, that was something they could change. So rather than finishing at midnight, they could finish at like 8 o'clock at night, okay? And by the time they started writing, it was at 9 o'clock, 9:30. And the quality of time that they had being earlier was better, okay? So even though they couldn't get more time, just changing the timing of it was enough to help them improve, okay? So I want you right now to look at your list of barriers and to circle what can you control, okay? What changes can you make? So please take a few minutes right now to identify the barriers that you can control. Circle those. All right, so after you have identified some barriers that you can control, now I want us to change our line of thinking, okay? Still on SA1, and I want us to think, what were things that helped us complete essay one? What were things that facilitated your success? I call those facilitators, okay? So we'll get a list for those things too. So brainstorm right now for a couple of minutes. What were things that helped you complete essay one? This could be anything. It could be something from our class. It could be something from outside of our class, okay? So what were these things that helped you complete essay one? And by the way, as I say this, I realize that many of us haven't completed essay one, okay? Which is certainly a concern, all right? You do have that late policy available to you, okay? But I think more importantly, the thing that I want to remind you of is the redo policy, okay? If you turn something in and you don't like the grade that you have, okay, you can make it better, okay? You don't necessarily have to rewrite the whole thing. We just need to fix the parts that you lost points on, all right? So even if you have not finished essay one, you should still participate in this exercise and write that reflection that's due on Monday. Tell me about that process. What is it that is blocking you, okay, from getting it done? But at the same time, we should also highlight, well, what is working, okay? What is it that is helping me to make progress towards finishing it, okay? This is part of healthy self-assessment, right? If all we do is see our faults, okay, we're gonna have really low self-esteem. We're not gonna get anything done, okay? Because all you do is beat the crap out of yourself, okay? You've got to also see what is it that can work for you, right? And we've got to hold tight onto those things, especially if our list of faults, if our list of barriers maybe, right, way outweighs the list of strengths, okay? We want to identify those things because we want to make sure we commit to keep doing those things, okay? So even if you have not finished the essay, still think, okay, what is it that's helping me to make some kind of progress here, okay? All right, so what are some things that are working for you guys? What are some things that are helping you, that helped you complete it or are helping you to move forward with it?
Maybe just reminding myself that I don't need to write the perfect essay. Do not
Yes.
overthink it.
Yeah, that's excellent. Okay. All right, that is a great mantra, an expression that we should repeat for ourselves over and over. There is no perfect essay, okay? An A paper is not a perfect paper, okay? An A paper is something that meets the standards for that course, Okay, it's not like absolutely when we compare all of the writing ever written, that this is the best. This has no flaws. That's not what it is, okay? And that's certainly not required to get a passing grade on it either, all right? There are some things that need to get done to be passing, and there is some better quality that's needed to get that A, right? But it certainly is not perfection, okay? Maria, thank you for that. That's what the redo policy is for, all right? Because you gotta, that's how you improve, right? You turn it in, I give you feedback, right? And then you assess, well, what can you fix, okay? And what can we fix together, right? Excellent. So what are some other ones that come up? What are some other things that?
No, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna add on to the fact that I know that I could redo it. Like,
All right, having that policy
yeah.
helps. Okay. Yeah, Karina, thank you for saying that, right? That highlights something I'm doing that I should keep doing, right? Because Karina, is it reducing some pressure?
Yeah, because it still makes me want to do my best, but like in the back of my head, I'm like, I know I'm trying and this is what I could do right now. So I'm gonna turn in what I could do right now. And then if I don't like my grade, I can improve it.
Yeah. I think that's such a healthy way of thinking about this, right? This is the best I can do right now. Good, right? Show me that, because I can then look at it and say, all right, if you have time, okay, these are some things that you can work on to improve, right? Now, if you are protecting yourself a little bit and you are not trying as hard as you can, and you turn in something that's way below what you know you can do, right? That's not going to help either of us, because I'm going to point out things that you're probably already aware of, right? That you already know you can do better at, okay? What I want is your best given this current time, okay? What is the best you can do in this time? All right, we are already past the deadline for it, right? Get it in, give me the best within the time you have now, all right? I will look at it and I'll tell you, okay, where we can go. You guys, I don't even have a first level for some of you. And by that, I mean, I don't even know what our baseline, our starting point is, because I don't have any work, okay? If you turn something in, then the journey begins, because now we have a starting point. But the journey cannot begin until you take that first step forward, all right? So thank you, Karina, for pointing that out. Yes, okay, you can redo it. It means your best for now, okay? And then we can work on a path forward, right? What are some areas we need to improve on, okay? Great, what are some other things? Someone mentioned to me time management, okay? Is something that I think can both be a barrier and a success, right? It just depends on what our strength is, right? With managing our time. How many of you put down time management? Is it with an E? I'm going to put down here. How many of you have time management as a barrier? Like you struggle with managing your time. Raise your hands if you struggle with managing your time. Got a couple of us in the class, a few of you at home, okay? Right, great. That's typical, right? What we have to do is kind of break that down into chunks, right? What are ways that I can improve with time management? Again, it starts with what can you control? What can't you control, okay? If you have work responsibilities or family responsibilities that aren't going away, all right, you can't control that, but maybe you can shape the when, the timing of them, okay, right? So keep thinking critically, right, about how can I control things? What is within my sphere? Yeah, Karina. I see your hand up. I don't know if that's
Oh
from
no,
the-
it's still up from last time, from when
Okay,
you
all right. Sure. Any other things that facilitated your success that is helping you move forward?
To me, it was the feedback that I got off the draft essay. I
Great.
think that helped me a lot.
Good. Excellent. Yeah. You guys, I will give you feedback on your rough drafts, okay? If you want feedback on your final draft, I'll give that to you too, all right? I'm pretty much giving everyone feedback on this. Normally, my policy is I just give feedback to everyone, whether you ask for it or not, on the mini essay. And then after that, I just let the rubric do it. The rubric has descriptions, so it does give you some information. But what Rachel's referring to is I looked at her rough draft. I gave her some comments on the thesis statement, the intro, and a few other parts, okay? I focused on the big money items, okay? The part where you get the most points, all right? I will do that for anyone who wants that information. I just need to know that my time is being well spent, right? That you're gonna look at whatever I give to you. Rachel, thank you for pointing that out, okay? It's a good reminder. I will give you feedback, okay?
Thank you. I'm waiting for the feedback on the essay, the final one.
Yeah.
I want to
No,
see
no.
how I did.
Yes, no, I know it's a little bit of an anxious time. Oh, but you know what? You do bring up a good point, right? How long does it take for me to give you your essays back? Okay. From the time that you submit it, okay, I try to get it back within 2 weeks. Okay. These are essays. It's not a Scantron, right? And I take very seriously when I grade your papers. Okay. I read the whole paper. All right. I do not skip anything. Okay. I have my rubric. I'm very detailed with looking at what is on my list and what you have presented, okay? So I'm sorry if that's uncomfortable for you, okay? I'm not trying to keep you in suspense or punish you with waiting in any way, okay? It's just more like, this is what I've got to do to make sure I'm doing my job right, okay? And I also want to be very clear for you, this is what you need to do to improve, okay? It gives us a starting point to talk, okay? Especially if you want to redo that assignment, okay? All right, let's turn to the prompt because I want to make sure you all look at this because it doesn't sound like that's what we've done yet. All right, so from the home page, go to the week 7 module. All right, it's taking a little bit to load and I'll get prepped for those in class. Okay, so from the week 7 module, this writing assignment that I've been prepping you for is called Revision Reflection Prompt. It's about midway down the module. Select that. Okay, there you go. Please take a moment to read the prompt. And this is the time for me to explain anything on the prompt that's confusing. I want you all to know what you need to do, okay? Okay, questions about the writing assignment? Do you guys need support sandwiches for these paragraphs? Are you quoting from the novel for this paper? What do you guys think at home? Are you quoting from the novel for this paper?
No, we shouldn't. It should be how we our efforts to write the essay. Pretty much what we're covering right now, like what helped us on the first essay, and what our barriers are, I think.
That's exactly right, Rachel. This is not about Esperanza, okay? This is about you. This is about your writing process. This is about you looking at the effort that you put into it. It's paragraph 1. It's about you looking at the strategies that you used, okay? Now, I want to separate these strategies from seeking help from others, which is also a strategy, but that's an interpersonal one. That's like, how did you work with other people to do better, right? So for that second paragraph on strategies, focus on individual strategies, right? Like maybe writing an outline, okay? Brainstorming, how did you read and annotate, stuff like that, okay? And then of course, the third paragraph that I just previewed, how did you look for help, okay? Who did you work with to make this better? For some of you, the answer might be no one, right? That's okay, I wanna hear that, right? Why didn't you, okay? Will you do it differently next time? Why will you or why won't you, okay? The substance of this reflection is your honest assessment of what's happened, okay? Of what's happened for you. The last paragraph is where you think, well, if I were to revise this paper, okay, what would I want to change? What were the things I struggled with? Okay, and I mentioned, some grammar things, right? But I also mentioned, well, what if you struggled with finding quotes, right? What were things that maybe you left out that you would like to add in, okay? So that last paragraph is like more of like a plan for revision. So if you finish the essay, okay, then just think about, well, what did you leave out or what would you like to do better, right? Make a little plan for yourself there. If you haven't finished the essay, you can still write this reflection and you can still think about that last paragraph, right? Maybe that's a good space for you to think, what haven't you done yet that you believe you still need to do to finish this paper, okay? So everyone here has what they need to write this reflection. It's all about you and you assessing your own writing process, okay? These barriers and facilitators, have that list handy with you as you're thinking about your effort. How did these barriers impact my energy? Okay, how did they impact the attempts that I made, right? And that's really what effort is, you guys, right? Effort's not like you did it, right? Effort is, well, how did you try, right? What was the quality of the attempt that you gave, right? So that was a quick definition of effort. I know that came up in the previous class, and I thought that might be an issue here. All right, so you're not using support sandwiches. You are still using claims, right? Because you start the paragraph with, this is what I thought of my effort. All right, good. So how do you support that? Look at what you did in the past. Just give me examples and details. That's how you are supporting your claim about your effort, about your strategies, about how you sought help from others, okay? About how you'll make the paper better, all right? It's all examples and details. Be specific. Don't get philosophical, okay? I don't want a high-minded definition of what does it mean to show effort. No, I want your effort, okay? I want you to tell me what you tried to do, what worked, what didn't work, okay? You know, where was your motivation level at? How did that impact the energy you showed, okay? So to simplify the structure, think of this paragraph as mostly being about the past. What did you do as it related to effort, strategies, seeking help from others, okay? The second half of the paragraph, or the last little bit of the paragraph, is what are you going to do differently next time, okay? What will you change, okay? What can you change, all right? So if it helps you to structure this, think of it as two parts: past, future, okay? What did you do? What will you do differently, all right? And you have your topics for each paragraph, okay? Effort, strategies, seeking help from others, okay? And what will you do? How would you make this paper better, all right? What would you revise? All right, so no support sandwiches, no quotes from the story, okay? This is a personal reflection, all right? And everyone, whether you have written the essay or not, can turn it in on Monday. You can write it, all right? Get points for this. This actually is worth more than your first mini essay, okay? This is a 15-point assignment, all right? And this is not one of those assignments that I grade with the same rigor as like the essay, okay? If you respond to each of these points, if you write your 2 pages, okay, and you do it in a developed way, you'll get the full 15 points, okay? So try, okay? I know it's hard, but take that next step, okay? Write out your reflection. Right? And if you're struggling with it, just let me know, okay? Email me, all right? And we can set up a meeting, we can talk through it somehow, all right? But I suspect, I don't know, because I'm not hearing a whole lot right now, but I suspect that a lot of you are more hard on yourselves, okay, than what I would be, all right? Don't be so hard on yourselves that you don't get stuff done, okay? There's no way that you can grow unless you do, all right? Any questions? Okay. The last thing I want to say is that I want to open up this class a little bit more, all right? I think our numbers make it a little hard, but I'm guessing that not all of you would come in each week if I did open it up. So what I'm going to say is that you can come in each week to class, okay? If that works better for you than learning online, okay? Just send me an email as a heads up, because we only have 18 seats in the classroom. That's all I'm allowed to use. And I believe I have 20 students in your section, okay? So just showing attendance wise, I'm not thinking that that's going to be a problem, okay? But I just want to make sure that I stay, you know, what's the word, that I'm consistent with the public health requirements, okay? That keeps us all safe, all right? It also allows me to still have a job. So come to class, all right? If it works better for you to learn in person, I want you here, okay? If you can give me a heads up, please do, okay? Just send me an email and say, hey, professor, I'm gonna come to class this week, okay? And I'll shoot you a quick reply and be like, great, I'm looking forward to seeing you, okay? So I know, and I know this stuff sucks, okay? This isn't what we want, okay? But it's what we have. So we got to think, what can we control, all right? And this is a change that I can make based on what I'm seeing here, all right? So you are welcome to come to class. Please give me a heads up, all right? I'm still gonna, you know, send out my protocol, right? Like, you know, Group Esperanza can come in next week. They have priority. But if you're in Group Gualinto and you want to come in next week, come in, okay? Just let me know, all right? And I can make sure I'm all good with space, okay? Any questions about that, about this new policy, where I'm going to open it up and invite all of you to come into class? Okay. All right. Well, I definitely want things to improve, and I'm hoping that that change will lead to some good results. Okay, everyone, thank you for your time. I will see you next week. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.